Mine was when I was around 14 and my grandfather was dying. My grandfather refused and fought death until my dad told him he would care for his wife, my dad's mother-in-law, and he would follow her where she went. My grandfather, within 10 minutes of hearing that, died with a calm face. My grandfather feared that no one would take care of her, not even their own children, until my dad promised him he would. I developed a new respect for my father and help him with my grandmother as much as I can, 12 years later. Love you, Father. Edit. I did not expect this post to grow and become this popular. Honestly, I have tried to read all the comments, but a lot of them made me cry. I want to tell everyone that I'm always here for you all if you need someone to talk to. Men should support one another. Story 1. When my son was 16 months old, my ex-wife burned his chest with an iron. I was deployed and came home to a filthy child who screamed when I picked him up. The doctor figured that the burn, second and third degree, was about 4 days old. The base had a small medical unit with just a doctor and a nurse. They couldn't keep my son's arms down while scrubbing the wound. So for 21 days I held my son's arms down and listened to him scream as they scrubbed. That was 35 years ago, and I still have trouble talking about it. No, I never got married again. Thank you for the awards and the kind comments. Wow, this blew up. I did not expect that. So many awards. Thank you all. Story 2. The death of my wife last year due to breast cancer. I can't even begin to express what this has done to me as a person, both positively and negatively. I talk about this a lot and I don't care about awards or online recognition. My online presence is full of these posts because I value the exchange. It helps me process, and in that process, it might help others. Talk about things, don't keep them bottled up inside. Story 3. Probably one of the hardest things I have been through has been holding a friend as they passed away from a motorcycle accident. We had gone up to the canyons and he slid out and hit a barricade. It took some time for a helicopter to come and get him, and all I could do was try and comfort him. It's been 2 years, and I still think about him. Story 4. Not anything crazy, but in an effort to conquer my fear of the dark when I was younger, my stepdad encouraged me to take a walk into the woods when we were camping. He never forced me, but ultimately I got the courage to do it. I cried, but I stayed in the complete pitch black with no light for a long time until I felt comfortable with the fear. Since then, every time I have had a fear, whether it's dealing with snakes, dealing with spiders, climbing heights, or walking through unsafe neighborhoods, it becomes like a hurdle in my mind that I force myself to overcome. That one very simple moment helped me realize I can overcome any fear I have by pushing myself to experience and conquer it. Story 5. Being charged with murder really did it for me. Some people I was with when I was younger got into a fight that resulted in a death, and we all got charged by association. I ended up getting out okay, but not knowing if you'd see freedom really messes with you. I'm still trying to recover from that, and it's been 10 years now. Story 6. When I had cheated off of everyone in my math classes until I passed and graduated high school, I didn't recognize how bad it was until I went to college. The entrance math exam exposed everything I didn't know, and I had to take 4 below-college math classes to catch up. 2 years and over $2,000 to make up that mistake. I'm a teacher now, and I tell this story to every class so they don't make the same mistake. Story 7. When I was 14, I was diagnosed with cancer, lymphoma. At that age, you kind of think you're invincible and that stuff like that couldn't get you. That was a hard lesson to learn. It was tough for sure. I was super sick on most days I had treatment, had a litany of procedures done, and lost all my hair, of course, which is devastating to a kid. I did get through it and have been in remission for 6 years now. Despite the countless hardships that came with this experience, at this point in my life, I'm actually glad I had it. It caused me to truly appreciate the life I was given, especially in the following teenage years where I developed a lot. I never take anything for granted anymore, and having cancer has honestly opened my eyes to the beauty of this world. Story 8. I was seriously depressed as a kid, really angry at myself and everyone around me. I had to drop out of sixth form because I just couldn't manage it. I went back the next year and got expelled for having a knife with me. I thought I had completely ruined everything, but I tried applying for my advanced levels the following year at a college nearby. I spent the year trying to get my head in a better place, and it changed my life. I met my best friend, passed all my advanced levels, and in September I'm going to be studying for my master's degree. Don't give up. When you hit rock bottom, everything else is upwards. Story 9. When I was in middle school, I finally got accepted into a friend group. Of course, being the star student that I was, it was the druggies because we had video games in common and played basketball together. After 2 years, I got into some really bad habits of smoking synthetic marijuana. It's really bad for you, but I didn't know or care since I had my first friends. The day I stopped being friends with them was a day I'll remember for the rest of my life and has caused several breakdowns in therapy. We went for a walk in this field behind the head friend's house, and there was a bridge that we were going to cross. It was just 2 steel beams embedded in the ground at each end and spaced a tractor width apart. I was the first one to cross and thought it was weird everyone else stayed back, so I turned around. About 5 seconds after turning around, an arrow hit the beam about 2 inches in front of me. We weren't hunting rabbits. They were hunting me. Edit to answer questions. 1. What is a tractor width? The width between the back large tires of a tractor. What happened next? I ran for my life. They chased after me, cornered and surrounded me in the street, tried to tase me, and I broke out of their circle before running 6 blocks home, bawling my eyes out. I composed myself before going inside and continued my life as if nothing happened. My therapist and you guys are the only ones who know the full or even half the story. Story 10. Maybe it is not the biggest example, I do not know. I am from England, but I lived in Munich for a while and had a girlfriend from Munich for about 5 years. We were living in Birmingham, and at the time I just sort of presumed that we would be together forever. The plan was to move back to Munich after her studies had finished. So for 5 years of my life, this was the vision of my future. However, we ended up splitting up, so this no longer happened, and I sort of grieve this future sometimes as I had loved living in Munich. Story 11. Failure, or more accurately, underperforming in one of the college entrance exams after school, shook me hard and instilled a fear in me. That fear eventually made me work hard, get into a good college, and keep grinding inside of it as well. That fear is still my fuel. Not wanting to be in a situation where I have to hide my face in shame, watching others get ahead in life. I do not want to experience that again. Story 12. The passing of my boyfriend's brother 7 months ago. He was in an accident and died hours later in the hospital. We lived 8 hours away at the time, so had to say goodbye over video call. My entire life has been turned upside down since then. Literally, everything I know has changed. We're devastated. Enjoy every minute of every day, folks. Story 13. When I was expelled from junior high school for my suicidal claims and threats, my mom had me go to a new school that changed my life significantly. I'm less suicidal, I stopped being bullied, and I became a better person because of it. My bad. Story 14. When I was 15, my mom went to jail for a longer period. It was the moment I realized how much easier it was without a crack addict attached to you. I was able to get my own apartment, and budgeting became much easier without someone stealing your things. Story 15. Came home from deployment and got arrested for driving under the influence. Not proud. Mugshot published in the paper. One coworker emails that around. Reactions from 2 different people. Military buddy calls and asks questions about my transfer and when I might be coming back to the office. He knew about my situation and was just fishing for gossip. A person I met in online dating, but we didn't really date, reached out, "Hey, saw what happened. I've been where you are. If you need to talk, I'm here. If you ever get a choice between kindness and gossip, take the high road." Edit. Thanks for the upvotes. I didn't go into much detail about each friend's reactions, but you all get the point. A family member going through a divorce and layoff from a corporate banking job told me you'd be surprised at who does help you out, and who does not. As for the mugshot, I asked the deputy taking the photo if they could not post it, said they had no control. I think it's since been discontinued, in part because it appeared to shame only a certain group. Story 16. Watching my father and wife pass away in the hospital made me a stronger person each time because I had to pull the family together both times. Finally, when my older sister and mother passed on, I had to be strong again. I made a decision that my kids wouldn't have to go through this. I donated my body to a medical school. They will use me to further the training of medical students and then cremate me and return my ashes to my current wife. Story 17. My grandfather passed away when I was 13. He had Alzheimer's and could barely remember anything. Before that, he gave me a blue hat that said Pilot Wings on it for my 7th birthday, and I wore that cap everywhere. I would visit him every day after school with that hat, and that man had stories to tell for days. He was a retired newspaper writer and had a tale for every problem. When his mind began to fade, he was still able to recognize me, but only when I had the hat on. After his funeral, my father told me Grandpa should be able to spot me from heaven whenever I have the hat on. Whenever I feel low, uninspired, or something good has happened to me, I put on a blue hat and go for a walk. Story 18. Breaking up with my ex after she cheated on me and then accused me of child abuse has made me so much stronger. I am still fighting legal battles, but I would do anything for my daughter. Evil incarnate, thy name is Jessica. She hates me more than she loves her daughter, which is really sad for my daughter. Willow. Story 19. My dad was diagnosed with cancer in 2017. I saw my dad cry for the first time. It broke me. Fortunately, he is a survivor now. It was a difficult time for my family. I still get nightmares about the day when my dad had the biopsy done and I had the reports in my hand. I was the person breaking this news to both my mom and dad. I felt devastated. During that whole treatment period, my dad once said randomly, "Science has come so far, but there is no cure for cancer." Being an engineer with a mathematics background, I could not digest the fact that I could not do anything for my dad and society. From that day, the quest began to find and do something in cancer research. Today, I'm pursuing a master's in data science for life sciences, and this is my first step towards it. I am trying to find a thesis project in cancer research, and I know I found my spark of what I want to do in my life. One day, I want to achieve something good and make my dad proud. Story 20. My grandfather was murdered on his farm in his bedroom. They used bed sheets to strangle him and had tied them around the bedposts. My grandmother was severely beaten as well but was extremely traumatized and was just sitting in the bedroom when we got there. My brother untied the knots while I watched. Being that close to multiple types of emotional trauma and viewing it made me pretty odd emotionally for ages. I developed some subconscious racism that took me ages to work through, even though I knew it was irrational. Story 21. Accidentally got blackout drunk at a bar around New York University in 2016. I had never been blackout drunk before, so as it was happening, I panicked and hailed a cab. Told the driver to take me to Brooklyn because that's where my brother and his wife were, and that's where I was staying. This happened around midnight. I blacked out in the cab and woke up in some alleyway in Brooklyn at 7 a.m. with no phone, no debit card, and no credit card. Luckily, I was able to find a nearby police department that contacted my brother, who came and picked me up. I was able to settle with the banks about what happened and got my money back within a few weeks. I went and saw a therapist. Doesn't erase the trauma of losing those 7 hours. I remember bits and pieces of what happened, but I'll never know what truly happened. The fact that a police officer told me I very well could have been killed was enough to scare me for the rest of my life, on top of my entire family being convinced that I may have been killed when I didn't come home that night. If I had blacked out previously, I probably wouldn't have panicked and would have stayed put on that couch in the club near New York University. But unfortunately, it was a new experience, and I thought the best thing to do was to get home as soon as I could. I will never drink that much ever again, and I hope I will never be in that situation ever again. I can honestly say that was the worst night of my entire life, followed by the worst morning, and I will never be that low ever again. Story 22. My uncle passed away unexpectedly from cancer. The time from diagnosis to the day he died was only 4 months. He was 38. I was 23. My entire perspective on life changed from that day forward, and after a decent amount of time being depressed as a result of it, I came out the other side a whole new man. Story 23. Not having a father sounds tragic, but this made me want a good wife, a good family, a nice house, a good job, to be a good father, and to be a good husband. I'm not close yet, but that's the goal and I'm heading there. Story 24. Lost both of my key father figures, my dad and my uncle, within a year of each other in my early 20s when they were both in their early 50s. My uncle was like my role model, got me into martial arts, and was less than 90 days away from retirement after a 30-year career in law enforcement. He was murdered in his sleep. A year later, my dad, who was in fine shape and never had health issues, died suddenly of a heart attack. This changed my perspective on a lot of things, namely the shortness of life and the realities of retirement and legacy. Story 25. My ex-girlfriend was with her for a few years, and she overachieved compared to me at that time. She had great results, scholarships, and more. I loved her dearly, and after every fight, I went back to her no matter how toxic she was. We had a fight, and as usual, I went back. I said, "Babe, are you okay now? Let's forget about that petty fight." "Baby," she replied, "I'm good." I never forgot that line. Because of it, I'm getting my master's in a few months. Sorry, but I'm not average. Story 26. Since January, I've had a massive flare-up of ulcerative colitis, lost my colon, and ended up with a stoma. Then the bit they left burst, and I got sepsis and started to have organ failure and a loss of oxygen to the brain. It ended up affecting my adrenal glands, and now I have to take medication for that for the rest of my life. I also forget words now. Then I had a few collections of fluid that had to be drained. Oh, and then I got pneumonia, and they had to put a 10-inch needle in both to drain them. I had to learn how to walk again, too. My doctor keeps asking me how I'm alive. I told him he can have all the credit for it, but it impacted me to the point where I don't care about anyone else but me now. I used to go out of my way for people and was a bit of a pushover. Now I come first and everyone else second.